So certainly one of the big things that's been on everyone's mind in the last couple weeks, 2-3 weeks, has been this conflict in Ukraine, Russia's incursion into Ukraine. We see it on the news, we're seeing it all over social media, and the question I hear from a number of people is just concerning, what does the Catholic Church think about war? Like, what counts as a war that is just? When should we go to war? Is war ever justified? You know, and it's a tricky issue. It's a complicated thing because you have to balance what the Church says about, you have to balance this concept of war with what Jesus says very explicitly in the Gospels, right? You have Jesus in the Gospels saying, love your enemies, turn the other cheek. You see Jesus kind of promoting this incredible nonviolent response, like a lamb led to slaughter, he opens not his mouth. That Jesus, who could have called down a legion of angels, goes to the cross and gives up his life. So you have that on the one hand, and then growing up in the tradition, especially coming from St. Augustine, some of the early church fathers, you have this recognition that we are enmeshed in a very fallen nexus, this fallen world we call it, right? And within that fallen world, there comes times when it might actually be justified to use a justified means of force to defend and protect and promote life. I mean, just think, for example, all right, so you're a father at home with your family at night, and you hear big bumps coming from downstairs, you hear loud noises, you hear windows smashing, glass breaking. You go downstairs and you find someone intruding into your house, weapons in hand, those sorts of things. What do? Do you just simply roll over, turn the other cheek? Or do you exhibit a justified means of defense to defend your family? I think, of course, the answer is obvious. I mean, there's justified defense there. So I just want to go through and just direct our attention to what the Church teaches as the just war theory, right? So the Church, as a sort of perspective, as a sort of modus operandi is always calling for peace, peaceful resolutions, but there comes times when war might be necessary. So this is from Catechism, paragraph 2309. Paragraph 2309. I just want to direct your attention to this, maybe for your own reflection, to think about what's going on with Ukraine and Russia. So, to the question of what qualifies as a war that is moral to wage, the Church answers this: that there's conditions that have to be there's conditions that have to be met in order for a war to be justified. Those conditions are this: the damage inflicted by the aggressor on the nation or community of nations must be lasting, grave, and certain. So the damage inflicted has to be intense, grave, lasting, certain. We can't think, for example, like, well, they might do some damage, so we better preemptively strike. That doesn't exactly work there. Point 2, all other means of putting an end to it must have been shown to be impractical or ineffective. That's a pretty tough, a tough condition to meet, I think, to exhaust all options, to exhaust all conversations, to exhaust all peacekeeping efforts. Third point, there must be serious prospects of success. So to go to war with the serious prospect, the serious confidence that you're going to bring peaceful resolution to that place. Fourth point, the use of arms must not produce evils and disorders graver than the evil to be eliminated. The power of modern means of destruction weighs very heavily in evaluating this condition. We live in the nuclear age, right? We just heard, Putin's putting the nation on, nuclear readiness. The means of bringing resolution to the war, if that is even graver, bringing about even more destruction, then that condition might not be met. This whole issue, Russia and Ukraine, it is so complicated, and I can't sit here and pretend to know the ins and outs of what is actually going on over there. We have what we're exposed to in the media, we have what we're reading online, but it's so intricate and complicated, and there's such deep history there. I think in the end, we can think about just war, and that's fine, but where we're sitting, I think the most important thing we can be doing is praying and fasting for a peaceful resolution. Jesus said there's some demons that can only be driven out by prayer and fasting, and this might be one of them. So let's do that.